high school football tonight. Jack, going through the schedule this week, there are, like we said, it's not the rosiest of schedules. Next week is, just by comparison, next week, when you get into what is, week 4 of the college football season, Friday night, Wisconsin at Purdue. I know you're a Purdue guy.
Yep.
That game is very intriguing to me. Huge, very intriguing. Boise State and San Diego State. Boise State starts out 0-2, but they may be one of the better 0-2 teams, I think, in the country.
Perhaps.
Yeah. UCLA and Utah. Oregon State against Wazoo. Cincinnati welcomes Oklahoma, and that could be interesting because Cincinnati could be better than we've given them credit for.
So are we talking about next week? We're talking about this week?
No, I'm just trying to compare it. So FSU, Clemson, Auburn, A&M, Ole Miss and Bama, Colorado and Oregon. Come on now. Who am I leaving? Iowa and Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Kansas State, UCF.
Isn't Iowa and Penn State the whiteout this year?
I believe so.
You got whiteout, man.
Yeah, so that's all next week. And then let's rewind and come back into the present as we had a fun little journey into the future.
Yeah, next week should be fun.
Next week's going to be really fun. This week, look, Penn State and Illinois could be interesting in that Illinois is going to have a really good defense, but Penn State looks like they might be the best version of what James Franklin has kind of wanted them to be for a couple years.
Yeah, I really hope they don't get tripped up in this game because I'm looking at Penn State as someone that can make the back half of the season very fun as a neutral fan.
Well, and look, if you look at Penn State, a team that could upset and here's the thing, you have to wait for another blue blood to upset the apple cart in the Big Ten, but they could upset the apple cart of the Ohio State-Michigan run that's on right now.
Dear God, please. Dear God, please.
Yeah. LSU and Mississippi State. We had Mike Scarborough on earlier. This is a 9.5-point spread here, but Mississippi State runs that wide-open offense with Will Rogers, the quarterback, and LSU's secondary hasn't been that good. So that's one that could get really interesting if LSU doesn't find who they believe that they are really quickly in that game.
Yeah, definitely. And the game right below, at least looking at ESPN's page, Kansas State at Mizzou. That one, you expect Kansas State to roll, but going into an SEC environment, it's something you can't necessarily take for granted. So, there are some interesting games this weekend. Now, will they still be interesting come halftime? That's going to be tougher to tell.
Yeah. But, look, Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz, they need that signature win. They need it.
Absolutely.
They need one. And
they came weirdly close against Georgia last year.
That could have really kind of created some excitement, but yeah, they need that signature win, and they just have not gotten it yet. They just have not gotten there. It's strange. It's strange in that what Zach Barnett said about Mizzou is, I don't know if he's completely right on that. He said, Jack, I know you were editing something over there, but Zach said that if you took a team and you just had them stop playing football games.
Yeah.
Forever.
Forever?
It would take fans a minute to notice that they were gone. Because Mizzou, while they've had they've had a couple little, peaks, they're just kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
Even being in the SEC. So they need to create some long-term excitement there that people can remember. They played in SEC title games.
Do you remember the days of Chase Daniel?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Who was that wide receiver they had?
Golly, who was he?
Because you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, he was like their first big 5-star get. He had some problems.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not to derail
it. It's gonna. But yeah, they need some excitement there because right now they're just kind of blah.
They're one of those, I know they're not a brand, but on the triple option the other day, you were talking about the rebirth of brands, and I think it's one of those cool things where it's I've seen them up before in my lifetime. I kind of grew up as they were at their peak, and Kansas is coming back up. They need to schedule Kansas. They need to be coming up when they schedule Kansas, but that could be awesome.
Lance Leipold was on a podcast the other day that John Anderson from ESPN and ABC John Anderson was on. John Anderson, one of the many Mizzou grads who is high up in the media because they have a fantastic journalism school there. But John Anderson, and Lance Leipold was like, John Anderson said, "Hey, when's Mizzou on the schedule again?" He said, "Well, it's supposed to be the Liberty Bowl, but you know how that panned out."
Man.
And
I love
so,
that.
yeah, I think they need to get
shade.
the border war going back again. I absolutely think they need to. I think that would rejuvenate. Look, I think it would rejuvenate things. And of course, I'm all for cross-conference things, and
The amount of I'm worried about the SEC and like how much they might look down or avoid the Big 12. Garrett thinks that they will completely avoid scheduling the Big 12 at a certain point. But I just know there's so much crossover in terms of history now with how many teams have moved over from the Big 12 and how much the region borders that, like, I'm just interested to see how much the two conferences play each other going forward.
I'm curious to see that because, like, what's going to be the benefit to them? I think their attitude will be like, we are picking up,
That's what Garrett's getting at.
We're lifting them up, and it's not helping us at all.
It does so much more good for the Big 12. It's one of those like lose-lose situations where if you're the SEC school, either you win and you're supposed to because you're the SEC school, or you lose and you're supposed to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Another game interesting to me, and maybe to me only, but as the SEC goes, South Carolina at Georgia. This is going to be the best team that Georgia's played yet.
I don't know why you put that into the picks this week for triple option.
Here's the thing. Spencer Rattler has his moments. And that's what it's going to take to beat a Georgia team is somebody having those moments. He had one last year against Tennessee. Had him last year against Clemson. So if he can have that kind of moment against Georgia, then that game could get interesting. But the offensive line at South Carolina is not good. North Carolina ran right through them the other night, and I don't know how – if North Carolina is going to do that, then the team with probably the best defensive line in the country in Georgia is not going to do that. But you never know. Like Georgia – and this is the thing that it kind of stinks for them because they didn't have the big non-con game that they were hoping with Oklahoma to lead off the year. They've won 2 national titles in a row. They need to prove nothing to anybody as a program anymore. But as far as this year goes, I've watched the first 2 games, a little bit of what I could see, and they're still really great. They still have unbelievable players. Nothing's changed about Georgia. It just looks like they're bored right now. And I don't want to see a bored team like just going out there going, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the number one thing you got to fight against when you're in the position to three-peat.
The malaise of like everything is this, and then you have somebody that's going to pop up and fight you tooth and nail, which is going to happen to them a couple times this year. And maybe it is South Carolina. Somebody usually when long winning streaks end, it is not the rival that gets you because that's the game that you are locked in on.
Yeah, that's one of those where it's no sneak up. They can be terrible, but they're going to give you their best shot. But you're not like, oh, it's just another one. It's just another one. It's just no. People are going to be at our throats if we don't win this.
Yeah, but starting before I was in school at FSU and ending while I was there, FSU had this ridiculous win streak at Doak Campbell Stadium. It was 38, 36, something. A ton of games in it, whatever it was. I could look it up. I'm not going to. But if somebody wants to. But they had this long winning streak at home. And the team that beat it was not Clemson. It wasn't Miami. It wasn't losing to Florida at home.
37 in a row from 95 to 2001.
Yeah. Do you know who the team that ended it was, Jack?
No, I do not.
It was Maryland.
Maryland?
Maryland in 2001. And FSU took it right down to the end. Chris Ricks threw a pass in the end zone to, I believe it was PK Sam, who would eventually catch a huge touchdown against Florida in 2003. Maybe it wasn't PK Sam. It was a receiver, but he dropped it. It was right in the breadbasket and he dropped it. And that was on 4th down and goal. And everybody stood in the stadium because we were so used to seeing FSU win all these games in a row at home, thinking that there's another play before it hits you. No, Ralph Friedgen's fat ass is running out there on the field and celebrating. And I say that also I see it. I'm a chubby guy. So, but Ralph Friedgen is running out there on the field, and we're just like, well, wait a minute. It's not legal for us to lose here. Isn't there rules that we win at home and you don't? So it's always a weird one that ends the long winning streaks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're so Sir Blah has a PK Sam CFL practice jersey. There you go. There you go.
Interesting.
There you go. But yeah,
that's obscure.
There are, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there are those things that, just they're not always the big dogs that get you. Because when Georgia or Alabama or whoever is rolling through life, everything's fine, won all these games at home, the one they're going to get up for is the rival. The rival's not going to, because that's the one that's going to break them out of their boredom. But the one that gets them is the one that, like Georgia last year, went to Mizzou and really played bored and almost lost the game. And then they did it was like they did one of these. They were like, whew, wait, what? We're losing? Oh, hold on. How much time's left? Okay, enough for us to win. Let's go fix that. And then we'll all not talk about this again.
I mean, it's absolutely the Thanos should have gone for the head moment from last year of college football,
Yeah.
You cannot not kill the Georgia when you have the chance to kill them. Otherwise, they're going to go and do what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking down, trying to find other things that are.
I mean, I'm still looking at a couple Big 12 games, specifically BYU, Arkansas, and the backyard brawl.
Yeah, look, BYU and Arkansas is really interesting because you're talking about BYU trying to make a statement game, maybe win before they go into their first season of the Big 12. But at Arkansas is going to be a tough place for them to win. And KJ Jefferson's good, man.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the times where Arkansas has stumbled in the last couple of years, it's mostly been when he's not playing.
Now, I haven't watched a lot of KJ Jefferson, but the comp that immediately comes to mind for me with KJ is Cam Newton. Obviously not the same quality, but style of play. Am I off here?
No, I mean, look, he's big arm, really can run, a big guy. Sometimes he trusts his athleticism a little bit too much. So, yeah, maybe so. He's in that mold. Obviously not as accomplished, but, yeah, if you were trying to
not going that far.
No, I mean, but, Harold Perkins reminds me of Von Miller a little bit, but not there yet. So
it's going to be tough to see the BYU defense slowing that down. But I hear they are without Rocket Sanders.
Yeah. That is a big one for them. TCU and Houston is interesting to me, and that Dana Holgerson probably needs to get a good win after last week against Rice. But TCU, and I don't think we've seen TCU at full speed yet. So let's see what that offense is going to be when they really start to hum. I think that'll be.
How long do you think it'll take them to start to hum, though?
I think it could happen this week. I really do. I think they'll be fine against Houston.
Then again, what was it? 42 points against Colorado was.
Yeah, they say that, but
bad.
as far as I say them start to hum, not the offense start to hum. Everything looks like they're TCU again. There's that,
I find it weird to be saying that about a team that's coming off of an appearance in the national championship game.
Yeah,
don't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. It is weird, but you never know. Tennessee and Florida. This was such a great rivalry game most of the time, or was back in the day, and then neither program has been good at the same time.
Yeah,
for quite a long time, and mostly that was. I mean, it's both their faults now equally, but Florida, if Florida and Graham Mertz can use the swamp to their advantage, which is a very tough place to play. It is so freaking loud in there. If they can use the swamp to their advantage, I think that's good. I just think that Joe Milton is too much for them, especially when they're probably going to take some deep shots early, and he can throw the ball 112 yards in the air. It's just the most ridiculous arm you've ever seen. So I think that's going to break Florida's back a little bit.
I wonder how quickly they will fall apart if Milton hits 2 of those in the first half.
Yeah. like that's because they do not have the athleticism that most Florida teams have had. They just don't have it right now.
But how far can they throw a shoe?
Yeah, like
That's my real question.
No, hey, look, that moment though was kind of the end of I mean, he made another year, but like when that shoe thing happened, that was kind of the end of Florida for a little bit there. Like that was the end of that run.
So it's a fond memory for you?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Look, I hate them as a Florida State fan, but I will say this again.
College football is better when they're good.
When all three of those teams were good and like when the national championship ran through the Sunshine State for sure, it was better to be a fan of all three of those schools. And the thing is that you can take joy in your rival, like being down all you want. The thing is that is coming for you. So just know it, that there's going to be periods, no matter who you are, that you have down. Like the sign of a great program is that your down period doesn't last like 7 presidents. Like you can get out of it in a couple of election cycles. You're all right. But look, if you revel in your rival being down and being able to do that, then yeah, I mean, look, I
got to ask, like, if you're having your best period but not winning national championships, is it better or worse if your rival's like up or down? Because Baylor had their best period and TCU was up there with them. And since Baylor wasn't competing for national championships, what's the number one thing that Baylor fans will remember about that run of being great?
61-58.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's special that TCU was good at the same time.
I am not good. Like, only thing I'm going to remember about the 2022 FSU Miami game is that it was an absolute, like, pants down spanking. And I got bored watching the Miami game for maybe the first time in my life. And I don't want that. Like, as much as I've pained by those losses as a fan, like, it cuts me here. Like, if another one of those games comes down to a field goal, I'm going to hide in the garage. I don't know what to do.
Can we live stream that?
Yeah. But if it's better and more enjoyable when it's like, it matters. It matters. And so I think that sometimes you have to give a little to get a little. You know, this, I am like the historical Congressman Henry Clay. I'm the great compromiser. I am willing to compromise if everyone wins. Cut. Hey, I had Helen Thomas earlier. I got Henry Clay today.
You're killing it.
I'll go way deep cut. Way deep cut. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's rock with it.
Anyway. Yeah, I want that. And you mentioned the backyard brawl, which is not so much for Pat Narduzzi and Pitt. I don't think like he's in any kind of trouble like Neil Brown is. But it is, at least for this individual season for Pitt, where it could get away from them if they lose this game. And for Neil Brown, who needs as much positive energy around that program as he can get, as he is playing with a huge chip on his shoulder this year and fighting against, a lot of fans who think that he should be gone, beating Pitt will quiet that for a little while. And look, their schedule is as tough as it gets.
Yep.
If you had drawn up, like, they don't even get a break. Like, you would maybe take this schedule if you could, like, mix it up a little bit. But their biggest rival in Pitt, Texas Tech, who's good, even though they're 0-2, maybe the best 0-2 team in the country. TCU is coming off the national championship, and that's on the road. Then you get Houston. I mean, so, like, you've got 3 games in a row here that are really, really tough, and you've already lost to Penn State.
Yeah.
Who was way better than West Virginia was. So
that's before you have to go into Stillwater, into the bounce house. No, it's not into Stillwater, sorry. You host Gundy, who is one of the most one of the most consistent coaches in the Big 12.
Yeah.
He's going to have his guys competing unless he's got a crazy rash of injuries. Yeah. And then you go into the bounce house, you host BYU. Like, the Big 12 schedule is not looking kind for them, even though we're looking at them as a better team right now.
They go to Oklahoma. And look, even by the 12th game of the year, who knows where Baylor and West Virginia are going to be. But the bottom line is the home team wins all those games. That's the series. That's how that series goes. So sometimes it doesn't matter what records are. The football gods have dictated, like, this is how this series is going to go. And Baylor and West Virginia has been the home team wins.
Yeah.
That's who wins those games most of the time.
Scary close sometimes,
Yes. We'll take a break right here. We'll come back. I want Jack's